what do you make of the billions of dollars development aid that the Abe administration committed to Myanmar, and also the Japanese business community willing to establish and try to build the industrial park in Myanmar, economic zone there?
So far, United States has been talking directly to Japan not to invest much money to Myanmar because they don't want to have the Myanmar to be developed in that area. However, the United States has changed the policy, and then Abe administration, with the economic circles of Japan, started to have the concrete planning how to develop the society of Myanmar. And Myanmar also wanted to have the domestic stability and also the investment from other countries. Abe wants to follow the idea of the United States. So this is the first point. The second point is that in Myanmar, to have the stability inside the country, it is so many opposed people, especially the minority people, are not happy to be under the control of the big power, big economic power of the Yangon or other areas. So if we invest much money to those non-developed areas of inside Myanmar, both Myanmar people and Japanese investors are happy.
All right, let me go to Ms. Clapp. What do you make of it? I mean, how important is Japan going to be in Myanmar's, particularly Ms. Suu Kyi's administration's overall plan about its economic development and also its role inside Asia, its diplomacy as well?
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Japan is tremendously important to Myanmar. This is not new. Japan has been investing there. They've already provided billions in aid and loans to the country since the transition began 5 or 6 years ago. And this is just the latest installment. The aid, the JICA aid, has been running at about $1 billion a year for several years now. So this 7.7 billion that Prime Minister Abe is adding will stretch over a period of about 5 years. It's very substantial. It is probably one of the most substantial grant aid programs from foreign governments. But Japanese investment in the country is also extremely important. They have put together the first economic zone in the country, a special economic zone right outside of Yangon. And they are investing, as Prime Minister Abe said, in infrastructure, which is desperately needed in the country.
Right.
And there are very few others that are actually making that kind of investment.
Of course, for a country as Myanmar is, it needs all kinds of development aid, support, as well as investment coming from the business communities around the world. Mr. Song, the interesting thing is, how does Myanmar place Japan in its overall plan? We've seen Ms. Suu Kyi's choices of visiting countries started with Thailand, which is closest neighbor, then China, UK, United States, and then Japan. What do you make, India of course, in front of Japan. What do you make of this itinerary choice in a way to indicate Ms. Suu Kyi's thoughts about Japan's position for Myanmar, diplomatically speaking, economically speaking?
Yeah. Now we can see that Aung Suu Kyi and the LD government's diplomacy pay much attention to the neighboring countries, Thailand or ASEAN countries or China or India, and it wants to get the support from the neighboring countries too much. Second, I think Aung Suu Kyi and LD government also knows clearly that they had to expand, develop good relations with all of the countries, including Japan, United States, or Britain, or other Australia, or other countries in the world. It wants to get more support to economically, politically, and diplomatically support to boost Myanmar's economy, to promote Myanmar's international role in the world stage, and also to improve the Myanmar people's well-being.
Ms. Clapp, the same question, I guess, have to be addressed to you. The choices that Ms. Suu Kyi made in terms of the specific design of her itinerary to indicate the country's importance and where the countries are in her overall map for Myanmar's future. Ms. Clapp.
I suppose one could look at it that way, but these kinds of visits have to be sequenced. You can't do them all at once. And I think that some of it was just a question of timing. For example, she came to the United States in order to appear at the UN General Assembly. So that dictated the fact that she would come to the US in September. And I think it was convenient for her to come to the US through Europe and make a stop there. So you can't say that the trips were sequenced simply to indicate the importance of the relations. I think that the fact you're making of trying to maintain a balance among all of the great powers is a traditional foreign policy of Myanmar, and we're going to see this return to the traditional balance that they've always had.
Right.
It got a bit skewed during the military years because of the of the Western sanctions on the country.
Ms. Clapp, on the other hand, you also see Ms. Suu Kyi being caught between two issues. One, of course, is the appeal Myanmar has since the first wonderful election that everybody applauded around the world, with Ms. Suu Kyi coming into power as well. On the other hand, Ms. Suu Kyi and many of her colleagues had to answer about the questions between her party and also the minorities in the north, the peace and stability there and how they are treating the minorities once they are coming into power. And of course, there's another issue, which is how can they make sure the countries that they are dealing with are going to contribute to the Myanmar's development as one, because countries are having different kinds of agendas in the region and beyond. So, Ms. Clapp, I know you have been very close interactions with Ms. Suu Kyi before she came into power. What is your take about this balance Ms. Suu Kyi needs really to have now?
Well, I think that she is looking at the country's needs. She has given priority to the peace process. She is deeply engaged with the ethnic minority groups, trying to move the country towards a stable future. It has been one of the longest running civil wars in the world, and it really needs to focus on that. That has been neglected in the past. Second, she wants to promote economic development. The people really expect the NLD government to bring them a better quality of life. And so she's, the most recent visits, as we have seen, where she's been appealing to donor nations, have been focused particularly on economic development. That was certainly the theme of her visit to the United States.
Right. Professor Watanabe, I want to end up our discussion with a question for you. You see very clearly Ms. Suu Kyi and her administration really wants to develop what they call strategic diplomacy offensive. That is, they try to keep a balance among all powers, even those that might have at odds with one another in the region. So, Japan, what kinds of nature of relationship is Tokyo, particularly the Abe administration, do you think, willing to develop with Myanmar, with Yangon at this moment?
Abe administration is very strange because they don't have any concrete ideas how to develop other countries, especially in the nation like Myanmar. However, the economic circles, especially middle-sized economic entities of Japan, they want to make factories in Myanmar utilizing the low-wage system of Myanmar. This is very important for them, and also the media in Japan are suggesting that if we can give the strong suppliers from Myanmar in every direction, we should put money on the educational system for Myanmar people. These are very important for us and also for them.
All right. It seems that Professor Watanabe have a different view compared to the Abe administration. But anyway, before we go, Mr. Song, very brief question for you. China, how does China take it? Myanmar, Japan relations at this stage, briefly.
Yeah. China wants to have a friendly relations with Myanmar, and also I think Japan wants to compete with China in Myanmar for its influence with China, but China doesn't want to compete with Japan about the influence in Myanmar. I think my view is we should make China, Myanmar, and Japan or other countries should make the cake to become bigger and bigger to benefit all of us.